So this video is a continuation of the last video, which was Test Prep CA8, Part 1, Question 9. So this is the second part of that. In that video, we talked about what makes an additive versus a multiplicative equation and what that graph will look like. And what we determined was that this graph here, because it does not go through the origin, which is here, that this graph would be additive. This graph would also be additive. This graph is multiplicative because it goes through the origin, which is here. This graph is also multiplicative. And this graph here is additive in nature. So that's good news for us because what it means is it cuts down on our work. Now this first equation here, equation 1, it says y is equal to 2.5x. Well, that right there is a multiplicative equation. Don't forget there's no multiplication sign there, but that 2.5x means 2.5 times x. So y is equal to 2.5 times x. So when x is equal to 0, y is going to be equal to 0 because anything times 0 is equal to 0. In this case, 2.5 times 0 equals 0. So that tells us that it's going to go through the point 0, 0. So it's a multiplicative graph that we need to look for. Now these two, C and D, are the only ones that fit that bill. So now we have to figure out which one it is. So if I look at both of these graphs, both C and D, if I look and x is equal to 1, let's just say I make x equal to 1. Well, 1 times 2.5 is going to equal 2.5. What that shows me is that if I look at 1 on the graph here, let's say I look at 1 on graph C. When x is equal to 1, which is here, if I just follow that up, y hits the line at about 2.5. So that tells me when x is equal to 1, when x is equal to 1, not 0, y is equal to 2.5. And that's what it looks like for graph C. But let's check graph D just to make sure. We don't have to check graph A, B, or E because all of those are additive and we know that 2.5 times x is multiplicative. So I'm just checking C and D. I've already checked C. C looks like it could be the answer, but let's just check D. When when x is equal to 1, we go up and it looks like y is maybe 0.75, something less than 1, which is right here. So what that tells me is that if I have an x value of 1, I have a y value of maybe 0.75 or something like that. But in any instance, it doesn't really matter what this number is. It's just not the 2.5 that we're looking for. So the correct answer then for 1 is C. It matches up with graph C. So that is our first answer. So I'm just going to rewrite a few things. 1 is equal to C. We determined that 1 is equal to the graph C. So I'm just going to go ahead and X out C. I don't need to worry about it anymore because that's not going to be two of these different equations. So once again, A is an additive one because it doesn't go through the origin. B is an additive one because it doesn't go through the origin. D is still a multiplicative one. And E is an additive one. Well, at this point, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work backwards just because, hey, it's a smart thing to do at this point. I'm going to see, is there any other equation that uses multiplication? Because I only have one more multiplicative graph. So which one does? Well, look here. Number 4 has a multiplicative answer. So let's go ahead and do y is equal to x times 3/4. Well, x times 3/4, when x is equal to 0, y, once again, x times 3/4 is going to be equal to 0. If x times something, if x is multiplied, if x is 0 and it's multiplied times anything, you're going to get a y value of 0 as well, which is going to give us a point that goes through the origin. So the only other graph that fits is D. So that tells me number 4 is D. So we've already finished 2. That's really good news for us. I'm going to take a moment and just rewrite that a little bit better. So now all we have are additive equations left. And what we have is we have number 2, which says y is equal to x plus 2.5. Well, I still like to use when x is equal to 0. When x is equal to 0, 0 plus 2.5 is going to equal y. So basically we find out that y is equal to 2.5. To put it a different way, when x is 0, y is equal to 2.5. So I can graph that point extremely easily. In fact, I can look here at the graphs and just look at A. If we look at graph A here, A does not go, when x is equal to 0, it does not, the line does not cross the y-axis at 2.5. In fact, it crosses at less than 1. So that's not going to be the one for y is equal to x plus 2.5. This one here looks like it crosses the y-axis at 2.5. So in other words, when x is equal to 0, which would be on the y-axis, it looks like the y value is 2.5. So this one could be it. This one's definitely not. And this one here, if we look down at E, when x is equal to 0, y looks like it's equal to maybe 1.5, but that doesn't look like it's the right value for us either. So if I had to look at these and say which one, when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 2.5, the only one that fits that is answer B. So for number 2, when y is equal, for y is equal to x plus 2.5, when x equals 0, y is equal to 2.5. So therefore, I'm going to choose B to be that answer. Well, it looks like we're going to need at least one more video to handle this. So far, we have 3 different ones figured out. We figured out that 1 is equal to C. We figured out that 4 is equal to D. And we figured out that 2 is equal to B. And so, unfortunately, we haven't figured out all of them yet, but that's given us a good start. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this video and export it. And what we'll do is we'll come back and figure out which graphs belong to number 3 and number 5.